Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Hope you're all well. We continue our reading today of our text on Tilawat al-Quran, al-Majid, Fada'iluha, Adabuha, Khasa'isuha by Sheikh Abdullah Sirajuddin. And today's sections, inshallah, are related a lot to reading Quran in the night and Ramadan as well. So hopefully we could get through those sections. We will begin with I think we stopped last week. Bismillah, first let me introduce. قال المصنف رحمه الله وانفعنا بعلومه. We were covering the idea of teaching young children Quran and kind of practices that work, and about children memorizing Quran. So we'll continue from page 119 of my text, which is اتخاذ المسلم وردا لتلاوة القرآن الكريم. That a believer should have a portion of his daily litany, or word would be translated as into English as like a portion of reading, either that be Quran or it could be du'as, whatever it may be. So that the Muslim take as part of his daily litany, a portion of the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The Shaykh says rahimahullah ta'ala ينبغي للمسلم أن يتخذ لنفسه وردا من تلاوة القرآن الكريم كل يوم وليلة مع التدبر والترتيل والحضور والخشوع والأدب ليحضر كل الحظر من حجر التلاوة والإعراض عنها مخافة أن يناله وعيد من قوله تعالى وقال الرسول يا ربي إن قوم اتخذوا هذا القرآن مهجورا. There's a verse of the Quran which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala states, and the Shaykh says that this is kind of a warning for all Muslims that should encourage them to read a portion of the Quran every day. It can be a few verses, it can be even a surah, whatever it may be, that Allah says in the Quran, and the Messenger says, "Oh my Lord, inna qawmi, indeed my people, my community, ittakhadhu hadha al-Qur'ana mahjura, have abandoned this Quran, have abandoned it." Mahjura means to leave something or to abandon it, which is a striking verse. And the Shaykh said that one should take, and the point that he's making is, one should take a portion of the Quran, whatever size that may be, every day to read, lest they fall into the ruling that this or the ruling related to this verse, or the meaning of this verse, of those people who have left the Quran mahjura. So that's his advice right from the offset. And last week I did mention that one of the signs of Akhiru Zaman, or the end of times, is that people begin to forget or leave the Quran. Even the hadith about the day of judgment will not come until the Quran is taken away from the people and there'll be nothing in the pages. That has been like a mahallun niza', a discussion about what the hadith actually is in reference to. But definitely, if we just look at it figuratively, I'm not ignoring the literal interpretation of it, but even figuratively, the Quran is beginning to disappear. An example of that is we'll get onto the buzzing of houses with the Quran, but I think Sheikh Hamza Yusuf was saying that when he was in Mauritania in the 80s, I think in the 80s, he said that with the mahdaras there, the kind of the madrasas and the villages, you can, in every village, you could, from every tent or mud hut, you could hear the reciting of the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala every morning or every evening. He said when he went back, and he must have gone back many times, but must have been a recent kind of visit of his, he said that many of those places you can't hear the Quran anymore. People now, of course, in those mahdaras, they probably didn't have electricity at that time. They clearly didn't have internet. He said now the internet's come in, electricity's come in, and people have stopped reading the book of Allah. So that's to show you that even in the Sahara Desert in West Africa, even there we have this element of inna qawmi ittakhadhu hadha al-Quran mahjura. So meaning because often we have this problem, should we be we've talked about it several times over the weeks, over the lessons, that should we concentrate on the meaning of the Quran and just read the Quran? And I said both of them have merit, and the reading of the Quran should definitely be a major part as well. It says وذلك أن بعض الناس من هجر الإيمان بالقرآن ومنهم من هجر العمل به وبأحكامه وأوامره ومنهم من هجر تلاوته. The Sheikh said that this type of hajr, meaning this leaving, he says some people have أن بعض الناس من هجر الإيمان بالقرآن. Some people have altogether left belief in the Quran, and that would be people who have left the fold of Islam, people who have left the Quran in almost in its entirety, that they don't believe in it anymore. So they definitely are that group. We do have that group of people, and we do have that problem now, being post-religion, and in almost all of the Western world. How do we deal with those challenges of people kind of challenging the Quran, God's verses, and God's signs? But that's for the domain of theology, though. The second group of people, this is وَمِنْهُمْ مَنْ هَجَرَ الْعَمَلَ بِهِ. Some people have left the practice of what's in the Quran. This would be true of most believers, actually, that they have generally will kind of accept loosely anyway that most believers have left the kind of path of the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, the way of the salihin, the righteous people. And Hajj al-amal bihi, how can you know what to do when you don't know what's in the book of Allah Jalla wa Ala to begin with? There could be many reasons for this, but I'm just kind of highlighting the reality. Then it says wa bi ahkamihi. Some have left the rulings of the Quran. Wa awamirihi, and the commandments of the Quran. That would be just the law itself that was revealed in the Quran. Not just the previous one would have been guidance as well, but this is laws specifically that they believe in it. They probably even read it, but do they follow the laws? Probably unlikely that they follow the laws of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then the Shaykh says, وَالدَّلِيلُ سُنِّيَّةِ اتِّخَاذِ وِرْد مِنَ الْقُرْآنِ يَقْرَأُ فِيهَا أَحْزَابٍ حسب ساعته ونشاطه دون ملل ولا كسل. دليل ذلك ما رواه أبو داود عن ابن الهاد قال سألني نافع بن جبير بن مطعم فقال لي في كم تقرأ القرآن؟ قلت ما أحزبه. قال لي نافع لا تقل ما أحزبه فإن رسول الله عليه الصلاة والسلام قال قرأت جزءا من القرآن. There's an important kind of advice that the Shaykh gives off the bat. He says, how can we prove that it's sunnah to read the Quran as a wird? By the way, obviously it's clear that we read the Quran, but we're talking about the sunnah to read the Quran as a wird, meaning a bit of the Quran every day. That's what we're talking about here. The irony I mentioned last time was so many people have these like awrad, and they have these different awrad, read this 5 times, read this 12 times, or 7 or 8 times, but they don't read any Quran. The book that was revealed to the Messenger of God alayhi salatu wasalam has become mahjur, and it's been replaced with other things. The primary focus should be on the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the Shaykh says, read the amount of portions ajza hasba sa'atihi wa nashatihi dun mal wala kasal. Read an amount that won't put you off, meaning that you won't just stop it after a while, or nor will it kind of cause tiredness in you. And he says the evidence that to recite the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as a wird every day is a hadith narrated by Abu Dawood, I think. Yeah, Abu Dawood Sijistani narrates a hadith that Ibn al-Had asked Sa'alani, Nafi' ibn Jubayr states, Nafi' ibn Jubayr al-Mut'im asked me, how much of the Quran do you read? And he wrote, Ma hazibuhu, like I don't pick a specific amount, I don't kind of separate it in that way. And Nafi' said to him, don't say that, for indeed the Messenger of God said, alayhi salatu qara'tu juz'an min al-Qur'ani, that the Prophet himself said, I read a portion of the Quran. That's an inference that the Prophet would read different parts of the Quran, maybe different days. We're going to get to that, inshallah, and the evidences for that. So then he quotes a hadith which is narrated by Imam Ahmad, which the Messenger of God would visit certain Sahaba or groups of Sahaba at certain times. And one evening, the Prophet ﷺ, was a little late, meaning the regular time that the Messenger, which is the Messenger of God ﷺ, had you had perfect punctuality in that. Remember, we talked about holy monotony last week. That the Prophet ﷺ, often when he would visit people at particular times, he would be consistent, so they would know that he's coming. Alayhi salatu wasalam. So the Prophet ﷺ, was a bit late this time, and it was really odd to the Sahaba. So they asked the Messenger of Allah, Ya Rasulullah, laqad abta'ta anna al-layl, like you came a bit late in the evening. And the Prophet ﷺ said, إِنَّهُ طَرَعَ عَلَيَّ حِزْبٌ مِنَ الْقُرْآنِ فَكَرِهْتُ أَنْ أَجِيءَ حَتَّى أُتِمَّهُ. He said, I began to read a portion of the Quran and I didn't want to leave until I finished it. So that's what delayed the Messenger of God ﷺ. They wanted whatever portion he was reading, wanted to complete it. Another inference to the fact that he would read portions of the Quran at different times, awqat, again taking it as a word. The companion also asked the Messenger of God ﷺ, how do you divide it up? I'm going to talk about the different kind of breakdowns of Ahzab and things like that. How do you break the Quran up? And the Prophet ﷺ said, ثلاثٌ وخمسٌ وسبعٌ وتسعٌ وإحدى عشر وثلاثة عشر وحزب المفصل. So وحزب المفصل. So وحزب المفصل عفوا. So the Prophet ﷺ said, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, 13, and then different portions of that. Now, I just want to kind of explain a few words that are kind of common that people use all the time, like what does a hizb mean? What does a juz' mean? I want to explain some of those words first. Firstly, the Quran is divided into 114 chapters. It begins with Fatiha and ends with Surah An-Nas in the order that was collated. Now, often we have this word juz. Now, the word juzu is juz, from the word juz, is an alien word to the people in the subcontinent. We use words like para, or with the S sometimes at the beginning, spara, they say. So by a para, of course, they mean 1/30 of the Quran. If we break the Quran up into the largest sections that are common, it's 30 chapters, or 30 adza, or 30 juz, or 30 para. So this word juz is a synonym for the way we use para in Urdu or in Patwari or whatever you speak in the subcontinent. Yep. So if somebody says to you the last juz of Quran, it means the 30th one. They mean 14 juz, it means the 14th one. So then there are other kind of breakdowns of the Quran as well that people use. One of the breakdowns is known as manzil, what they call manzil. And this is different to the manzil that the booklets that you get, will have some ayats in it for protection from waswasa of shayateen. It's not that manzil we're talking about. This manzil is a manzil system that was used to complete the Quran in 7 days. Okay. And it breaks up into 7 days. The first one is from the first juz of Quran until the 5th. So it's from Fatiha through to end of An-Nisa. So from Surah Al-Fatiha to An-Nisa. So that's one portion of the Quran, from Fatiha to An-Nisa. The second would be from Al-Ma'idah to the end of Surah Al-Tawbah. Second would be from Al-Ma'idah, which is in the fourth juz, the fifth juz of the Quran, sorry, to Surah Al-Tawbah, which is in the 9th. So that's a second breakdown, second day. The third day would be Surah Yunus to the end of Surah Al-Nahl. So Yunus to the end of Surah Al-Nahl. I'll repeat these at the end, inshallah. The fourth day will be Al-Isra to Al-Furqan. Al-Isra to Al-Furqan, to the end of Al-Furqan. The fifth day will be Ash-Shu'ara to the end of Yasin. Shu'ara to the end of Yasin. The sixth day will be As-Safat to the end of Hujarat. To the end of Hujarat. And the seventh will be Surah Al-Qaf to the end of the Quran. So I'll repeat that. So the first will be Fatiha to the end of Nisa. Second will be Ma'idah to the end of Tawbah. Third will be Yunus to Al-Nahl. The fourth will be Al-Isra to the end of Al-Furqan. The fifth will be Ash-Shu'ara to the end of Yasin. The fifth will be As-Safat to the end of Hujarat. The last will be Al-Qaf to the end of Nas. So this is a 7-day breakdown, which they call a manzil. So this is called a manzil, and this will allow one to finish the Quran if they're going to do it over 7 days. We're going to go into the different riwayat and how many days and the Salaf, how did they read the Quran, inshallah, today. So that's one way, that's what they call a manzil. Then you have this word hizb, which is kind of confusing for, again, subcontinent, they don't use the word hizb. They have like ruku and things like that. They don't use the word hizb. So a hizb, the word hizb, when you see in some of the like Uthman Taha prints of the Quran, hizb is half of a juz'. Half of a part is a hizb, okay? And each hizb can be broken down into 4 parts, which they call in Arabic a ruba. Okay, so if we say hizb is half a juz', that means that half a juz', that would mean that there are 60 ahzab in the Quran. 60 parts the Quran can be divided if a hizb is half. Yeah, and then each hizb can be further broken down into 4 parts. Yeah. So this is the general kind of breakdown of these words. I wanted to explain these words, hizb, juzu, things like that, because people often ask, well, what do these words mean, and is it different to a para, etc. Now, the Shaykh says, rahimullah ta'ala, wal muradu ثلاث صور هي من أول سورة البقرة آخر النساء وخمس صور من أول سورة المائدة إلى آخر سورة التوبة. So they're listed here anyway. The manzil is listed here. Yeah. In this paragraph, I've put it, inshallah, I've put it there for you. So now, the Prophet ﷺ, there's a hadith of Amr, Abdullah ibn Amr ibn al-As radiyallahu ta'ala an, and he comes to it's a long hadith. Imam Ahmad rates the hadith sahih, although there's some variations between Ahmad's narration and the narration Sahihain. It's a long hadith about fasting, nawafil, and also other things. And this part of the hadith, the Shaykh's taken a portion of that, where the Prophet ﷺ says to Abdullah bin Amr, he says, "Iqra il-Qur'ana fi kulli shahrin." Read the Quran. Yeah, he said, the Prophet ﷺ said to him, "Iqra al-Quran fi kulli shahr." Read the Quran every month. Now, what does that mean? That's kind of open, but that would mean to him, because he was asking, you see, he wanted to know what extra can I do. So that would be a juz' a day. Maybe difficult for a lot of people, so I'm going to get into that a bit later, inshallah. What's recommended and how one should read it. And he said, فَإِنِّي أُطِيقُ أَفْضَلْ مِنْ ذَلِكَ. He said, I can read more than that. The Prophet ﷺ said, فَقْرَأْهُ فِي كُلِّ عَشْرٍ. Read it every 10 days then. Do a khatma every 10 days. That would be 3 khatams approximately in a month, give or take on the days. قال عبد الله فإني أطيق أفضل من ذلك. I can do more than that. Prophet ﷺ said, فَقْرَأْهُ فِي كُلِّ سَبْعِ لَيَالٍ وَلَا تَزِدْ عَلَى ذَلِكَ. Read it every 7 days and don't exceed that. And this is where this manzil idea comes from as well. Don't go beyond 7 days. Now, the Shaykh says, وَهَذَا النَّهِي لَيْسَ لِلتَّحْرِيمِ وَإِنَّمَا هُوَ لِلْإِرْشَادِ وَالْإِسْعَادِ. A beautiful point. This statement of the Prophet, don't go beyond that, it's not a prohibition, but there's something very, 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 very important about the Sunnah. It's a principle of the Sunnah. And not just of the Sunnah, but the Islam in general and the Ahkam. The Ahkam of Islam are not supposed to be difficult for people. They're not supposed to create haraj for people. Now, I agree that some people, the way they live their lives, everything's going to be difficult. Don't get me wrong, like everything will be difficult. But generally, there shouldn't be haraj. And when the Prophet, even though the Sahaba were very eager, they'd be incredibly eager, they probably wanted to do more. But the Prophet has that knowledge of what's going to happen as well, and he can see clearly that, okay, for certain people, the consequence will be this, and certain people, the consequence will be that. So the Prophet said that to him because he wanted to give a general advice to everybody that you shouldn't exceed that much. It's not generally healthy to go beyond a khatma every 7 days. Are there people who go beyond that? No, of course there are people that go beyond that. Definitely there must be people that are out there that do that. But that's not normal, and the rule can never be presented as that. And that's why the sunnah is mu'tadil, is for everybody. And this is at the extreme end of it, by the way. The Prophet already said to him once a month. So you can put that up, you can hang that up once a month. Then he said, no, I want to do more. So now we have all these exceptions, istithna'at. So can you do less than that? Of course you can. If you read the context of this whole hadith, it's about doing more. The whole hadith is about doing more. So this even once a month is the doing more element. I'll answer the question now. Would it be sinful? Well, technically, of course, it is a major sin. But technically, just hold on until I finish the whole sentence. Technically, it's a major sin if one doesn't read the Quran every day, technically. Why? Because that would mean that they don't pray the salah. That would mean that they don't pray the salah, because you read Quran every single day in your salah. So technically speaking, just technically, one who abandons their salah has abandoned the Quran by definition. By definition. But we're talking about reading Quran beyond that. So everybody does, generally, but not everybody, but people who pray all read Quran every day, even if it's Surah Al-Ikhlas, even that. However, will it be sinful? No, it won't be sinful. It's not a sin. Allah doesn't say anywhere that it's sinful to not read the Quran every day. It's not a wajib in that sense. However, that doesn't mean that one shouldn't do it. It would be sinful, of course, to abandon the salah. Definitely. And it would be to not read any of the Quran every day. Unless, if you've got a pattern and sometimes the pattern breaks a little bit. But to abandon the Quran altogether, where one doesn't know the last time they read verses of Allah Jalla wa'ala, then that's a major problem. That would fall under Qala Rasulu Ya Rabbi inna qawmi ittakhadhu hadha Qur'ana mahjura. That would fall under that. And it's not hard to read a few verses of the Quran every day. That's why I often tell people, get into a class, because when you're in a class, doesn't matter if it's a class of Sharia, doesn't matter if it's a class of Arabic language, you're always going to be reading some Quran every day in your revision. You're always going to do it. You're going to be coming across verses, surahs, you're going to be reading it, making tadabbur. It's part and parcel of that kind of way. Yeah. So قد جاء في رواية هشيم أن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قال لعبد الله بن عمر, in another riwayah said اقرأ في كل ثلاث, that there's an addition, and there is some proof for the addition. That then the Prophet when he said more, he said, okay, every 3 days, but that's not generally added to this narration. Next, what was the adat of the early Muslims? And of course, we can't take everything from the early Muslims now in the same way, because the point is that life has changed a lot for people. So it shouldn't be a measure where people end up feeling really guilty. The lives were different as well, and the level of busyness and the way that we're trapped into a 9-to-5 system here is completely different. The way the social structures were different, which would have allowed them to have much more free time and things of that nature. And I'm very big on that. That when we talk about the early Muslims, the way that the early Muslims lived and the way that we live now is completely different. We live a very rushed life. A day goes by and you don't know what's happened. I mean, I can remember like yesterday, the last lesson we had on this book. Okay, well, yesterday, I don't know where the days are going. Plus the way that our working life is and the working environment is. Take London, for instance, people leave their houses at sometimes 6 o'clock in the morning, and they finish work even at 5 and they get back home for 8 o'clock. The whole day is taken up in that. It's very difficult now then to people to just say, oh, the Salaf did this and we should do that as well. It doesn't work, unfortunately. So you have to apply the general sunnah rules to and look at the hikmah and the wonderful words of the Prophet ﷺ, that he was always, there's tadrij, i.e. that he was alayhi salatu wasalam saying, okay, if you can, then okay this, and then if you can, then this. He understood that that he could see alayhi salatu wasalam what the future holds. So don't ever feel guilty about that. So, however, we'll still mention what the Shaykh does mention for maybe a bit of inspiration. Some of the Salaf would finish the Quran one khatma every 2 months, which is really interesting because that means they would read half a juz' a day. Half a juz' a day. Half a juz' is on the Uthman Taha calligraphy print. A juz' is every 20 sides, so 10 pages. So a page would constitute one page would constitute two sides. A 10 pages, 20 sides. So it'll be 10 sides a day they would read. So 2 khatmas a month, a khatma every 2 months, sorry. Some of them would do a khatma every month. Some of them would do it in 10 days. Some of them would do it 8 days. The majority 7 days. Some 6 days. Some 5 days. Some 4 days. Some 3 days. Some 2 days. Some 1 day. And some of them would finish 2 in 1 day. And some of them 3 in 1 day. And Shafi'i says, An-Nawawi says, I've not heard more than, did he say, more than 4 in 1 night? Shafi'i says that's the most. Now that is a nigh impossible task. 4 khatmas a day. Allah, they must have given up their life. I mean, to sit and do 4 khatmas a day. They must have been old, really. In all honesty, you can't achieve a khatma a day, by the way, a khatma a day, if you've got a normal life. It's just, even if you gave up all of your free time, unless somebody magically does that, all of your free time, and you had a really, like, you sleep like 2 hours a day, which is possible, but it's difficult. It's not going to happen. There's a narration, it's a very interesting narration. And Abdullah ibn Amr radiallahu anhuma, anna rajul ata nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, a man comes to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he says, ata nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam bibnin lahu, so he brings his son with him. It's a messenger of God. He says, Ya Rasulullah, inabni hadha, he must have other children. He says, this son of mine, yaqra'u al-mushaf bin nahar wa yubitu bil layl. He says, he reads Quran all day. Pura diara Quran padhna rehna. Like, all day, that's what he does. And he sleeps in the night. Like, it was a complaint, like, can you tell him to do something else? Like, all day, all he does is read Quran. The Prophet ﷺ said, Ama tanqimu an ibnaka yadhullu dhakiran wa yabitu salima. What a wonderful reply of the Messenger of God, alayhi salatu. It's a good hadith as well. It's Hassan. He said, why are you angry? Why are you so angry? Are you angry that your son spends the day dhakiran, in remembrance of God? Yadhullu dhakiran, remains. Wa yabitu saliman, and spends the night safe, saliman, at peace. At peace. This is not a recommendation in that sense, but he was an oddity, yeah. This boy was an oddity, but the Prophet, like, he waved it away. He waved that away. But some people are like that. Sometimes in their old age and sometimes when they're a bit younger. I've already told you about Shaykh Ahmed Habbal. Shaykh Ahmed Habbal, in my experience, anyway, and I try to watch him quite often. I used to visit him a lot. A lot of the students would visit him. I used to visit him a lot, and so I saw somebody's WhatsApp status yesterday or day before. A very person very close to me, Sheikh Tanweer from Banbury. He's Imam in High Wycombe at the moment, Tanweer Hussain. And he put on there about Shaykh Ahmad Habbal that he used to visit him. In all honesty, Shaykh Tanweer is the one who introduced me to Shaykh Ahmad Habbal in 2001. He's the one who told me, oh, look, that man over there, he's serious business. He was very old then, the Shaykh was, when I first saw him. He passed away, I think, in 2009, I think the Shaykh passed away, over 100 years of age. And he was mu'adhib ala qira'ati fil Quran. I think every 7 days he would finish the Quran from my observation. Some said 3, but it seemed more so 7 or maybe 5 at most. So وَمِنَ الَّذِي كَانُوا يَخْتِمُونَ كُلَّ يَوْمٍ وَلَيْلَةٍ 3 ختمات. So he actually named some of the people who finished 3 khatmas in the Quran. He mentions Itr Qadi, Masr, في خلافة معاوية, the Khilaf Muawiyah, رضي الله عنه. Sulaim ibn Itr, he was Qadi of Egypt, he would do it. And also it's narrated that 4 khatams in a day. So these are kind of stories. Yani Allah Ta'ala knows best how they did it, how they apportioned it, and things of that nature. But we have many reports like that. Abu Hanifa finishing 2 in a night, and these types of things. Maybe Allah Ta'ala knows best. But I want to really mention and inculcate the Sunnah of the Messenger of God. What's beyond that, and what people take on their own backs and do, فيه خير لهم يعني, that's good and khair for them, but we have the standard Sunnah for everybody. What the Messenger of God alayhi salatu wasalam mentioned for everybody. And he mentions quite a few other Mujahid and others. But like we said, some of the Salaf would finish it once every 2 months as well. Now I want to move on from that chapter, and I want to finish, before about what should we read then? What's the I want to go back to the Shaykh's words from the beginning, at the beginning, a few pages ago. He said, the Shaykh said, when he was advising right at the beginning how much one should read. Here, he said, Hasba sa'atihi wa nashatihi dun malal wala kasal. The one should read enough that they can continue it and it doesn't put them off. Based on his time, musa'atihi, whatever time you have, spend some of that. Just apportion some of it. If somebody reads no Quran, it wouldn't be a good idea to start with the juz'. It's counterproductive. You're just going to stop, pick a few verses, pick a surah, pick the last 10 surahs, pick 3 or 4 surahs, short surahs, whatever they may be. So do something that's logical, that you can fit in and you can continue. Last year I was teaching the book of Assistance by Sheikh Abdullah bin Alawi al-Haddad, rahimahullah ta'ala. And in that I mentioned that you should, in terms of Ramadan, and we're going to get to Ramadan, that people, they open the Mus'haf and they read juz' a day, but then they close it at the end. Interestingly, if they didn't read a juz' a day and they read 1 page a day, 1 page a day, 2 pages a day, they would probably finish more Quran if they did that for the whole year than what they did in Ramadan. That's the interesting thing. So try to do as much as you can keep up. And we're going to talk about the kind of the Ramadan as well, and what to read in Ramadan. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala states in the Quran, in this chapter, استحباب المواظبة على ورد من القرآن في جوف الليل, to keep up a habit of reading some Quran in the evening time, in the night time. Allah says, من أهل الكتاب أمة قائمة يتلون آيات الله آناء الليل وهم يسجدون. That there were a group of people amongst the Christians that read the verses of God آناء الليل, all night, وهم يسجدون, and they would fall in prostration. So the Shaykh says that the best time to read the Quran, ينبغي للمؤمن أن يكون له ورد من القرآن الكريم يقوم به في الليل والأفضل أن تقوم به في صلاته من الليل. That he should have a bit of the Quran that he would read in a prayer in the night time. Like a nafar, he means. Imam Nawawi says, قال الإمام النووي واعلم أن فضيلة قيام الليل والقراءة فيه تحصل بالقليل والكثير. That know that the fadila, the virtue of qiyam al-layl, standing in the night, wal qira'a fihi, and to read the Quran whilst you're standing, tahsulu bil qalili wal kathir. It's fulfilled even if you read a little bit or you read a lot. The sunnah is fulfilled. Just to stand 2 rak'at, qalil or kathir, yahsulu sunnah yani. Okay? وَكُلَّمَا كَثُرَ كَانَ أَفْضَلُ. The more you add, the better, of course, he says. إِلَّا أن يستوعب الليل كله فإنه يكره الدوام عليه. Except that standing all night is makruh. One shouldn't stand all night. وإلا أن يدور بنفسه. وما يدل على حصول بالقليل. What about standing a little bit of the night? A little bit of the night. He said there's a narration of Abdullah ibn Amr radiallahu anh. The Prophet ﷺ said, من قام بعشر آيات من قام بعشر آيات لم يكتب من الغافلين. Anybody who stands and just reads 10 verses of the book of Allah, Ashr ayat, he will not be written in the book, he will not be written or he will not be registered amongst the ghafilin, the negligent ones, al-ghafilin. Meaning he will not be amongst al-ghafilin. This could mean he won't be amongst ghafilin, or it will take the ghafla away from him, the idea of negligent. Ghafla can be translated as procrastination, by the way. One of the translation can be procrastination. Ghafla. Ghafla means where you're overcome by neglect, negligence, seeing other things as more important, leaving things too late to one side. This is all ghafla. And most of us have ghafla, if not all of us, an element of ghafla in us. But all is ghafil and shay. Ghafil and shay. I'll give you an example. Like the Prophet ﷺ said, there's a month between Rajab and Ramadan. Most people are ghafil anhu. Most people are unaware of it or negligent of it. And that is the month of Sha'ban. And then he talked about his benefits. The month that we're in now. So he will meaning he will not be amongst the negligent ones or registered amongst it. وَمَنْ قَامَ بِمِيَةِ آيَةٍ, one who reads 100 verses, كُتِبَ مِنَ الْقَانِتِينَ, he'll be written registered amongst the devoted ones. قانتين. وَمَنْ قَامَ بِأَلْفِ آيَةٍ كُتِبَ مِنَ الْمُقَنْطَرِينَ. Now this word muqantar is a very odd word actually. So it's mentioned in the Quran. This word kintaran is mentioned in the Quran. Muqantar is mentioned as well. So qantara, for the sarf students, yuqantiru, to have a heap of wealth, have a large sum of money, have treasures, to have talent. Kintar, heap of wealth or treasure. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala uses this word in the Quran as well. So muqantarin would mean, according to some of the ulama, I read that one will have a huge portion of wealth, treasure, meaning in the akhirah, fil akhirah. Yep, min al muqantarin. The next hadith talks about that same word a little bit, meaning one who reads 1,000 verses a night, that is, 1,000 verses a night. وعن تميم الداري رضي الله عنه عن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قال من قرأ 10 آيات في ليلة كتب له قنطار. That person who reads 10 verses, this one says كتب له قنطار, there's a mass of treasure for him waiting. والقنطار خير من الدنيا, and the Prophet ﷺ said this قنطار is خير من الدنيا, is better than the dunya. وما فيها, and all that it contains. Just 10 verses. فإذا كان يوم القيامة يقول ربك, on the day of judgment, Allah says, اقرأ وارقأ بكل آيات درجة حتى ينتهي إلى آخر آيات ما. That for every ayah, Allah says, اقرأ وارقأ. وارقأ meaning elevate. بكل آيات درجة, yeah, read and elevate one daraja, a level, until إلى آخر آية معه, until he gets to the last verse that he had. And then the hadith continues a bit longer. I want to move on, inshallah, further down the page to 2 or 3 statements. One of them is قال أبو الأحوص. No, not that, below that, sorry. Abu Zanad. Yeah. كنت أخرج من السحر. So there's this statement about what Medina Munawwara sounded like in the time of the Prophet ﷺ when it came to Quran. And the narration, Abu Zanad says, كنت أخرج من السحر. He said, I would leave just before Fajr time to go to the masjid of the Prophet ﷺ. فلا أمر ببيت إلا وفيه قارئ. That I did not pass by a house except I could hear somebody reading the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وكنا ونحن فتيان نريد أن نخرج لحاجة فنقول موعدكم قيام القرآن. He was quite young then. وقال أحمد بن أبي حواري, he writes إني لأقرأ القرآن وأنظر فيه آية آية. It's like a nice story. He wrote that when I'm reading the Quran, and this is the other element, not just reading, now we're looking at tadabbur, kind of understanding it. So the second kind of element. He said, I look at each verse one by one. فيتحير عقلي وأعجب من first فيتحير عقلي. He said, I'm kind of dumbstruck, or it blows my mind when I look at every verse and the content of every verse. He said, it strikes me that the Hufadh of the Quran, the people who memorize it, كيف يهنيهم النوم. He said, how do they sleep at night? He said, أو يسعهم أن يشتغلوا بشيء من الدنيا, or they even do anything of the dunya, the Hufadh of the Quran. وهم يتلون كلام الله, when meaning they've preserved, they've memorized, and they read the word of God. أما إنهم لو فهموا ما يقرؤون وعرفوا حقه وتلذذوا به واستحلوا المناجات به لذهب عنهم النوم بما قد رزقوا. That only if they truly understood its meanings and knew its truth and its تلذذوا به, and meaning they تلذذوا به kind of would mean like they took pleasure from it, meaning listening and understanding it. Sorry, he would say whatever little bit of sleep they've been given by Allah, that will go. And this was a man that was a huge exception, of course, to any rule, that he was that obsessed with the book of Allah Jalla wa Ala. That's how much it would. And Abu Hanifa said, about ilm, about knowledge, that he said, and he was a very simple man, Abu Hanifa, and he said, if the kings knew what we had, meaning this ilm that we teach and we study, he said they would fight wars over it, because that's the type of pleasure that it gives you. Ask any talibul ilm, any student of knowledge, any studying anything, that's of merit, that it's the pleasure that you get from it. It's unbelievable the way it busies your mind, the way that it fascinates you, the way when you learn new things, whatever it may be, the depth that it has, it beats anything from the dunya. What if you fall asleep and you miss what you were supposed to have read? It's a late night, you came back from home and you read Quran every day in the night time, but you know what? Fata anna qiyamul layl. So we missed those rak'at. What do we do? The Prophet ﷺ said, Man nama an hizbihi min al-layl. It's a hadith Imam Muslim narrates, that somebody who misses their portion of the Quran in the night, he falls asleep. Or an shay'in minhu, or some portion of it. فَقَرَأَهُ مَا بَيْنَ الصَّلَاةِ الْفَجْرِ وَالصَّلَاةِ الظُّهْرِ. Then make it up, try to make it up between Fajr and Dhuhr, the next morning. كُتِبَ لَهُ كَأَنَّمَا قَرَأَهُ مِنَ اللَّيْلِ. He will get the reward that he would have got in the evening time, in the night time. He would have received that at that time. Okay? Next we move to ينبغي الإكثار من تلاوة القرآن في شهر رمضان. What about the month of Ramadan? I am close to my end now, actually. I did want to go through this chapter, but it's quite long. Allah give us tawfiq month to take barakah from the month and use it well. If there's any time that we had super reflection, like it's now, because we've been through all this for 4 weeks, Ramadan has probably come at the best time for most people. For some people, maybe not the best time, because they're already struggling in the house, and now Ramadan comes and they probably wanted a bit more movement. Either way, it's a ni'mah from Allah that we've lived to meet hopefully Ramadan this year. Allah may take us by next year, so we don't know if we're gonna get the next one after that. So I pray that Allah gives us barakah in this Ramadan. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر لي ولكم وأتوب إليه. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله.